The afternoon sun burned bright over the busy highway. Expensive cars passed by one after another. Suddenly, a shiny black car stopped in the middle of the road with a loud clunk. The driver, a young woman in a fine business suit, opened the door and stepped out angrily. Her name was Samantha Reed, one of the youngest CEOs in the city. She was known for her beauty, confidence, and sharp tongue. People called her the Iron Lady because nothing scared her. Not business rivals, not failure, not even heartbreak. But right now, she looked helpless, standing beside her broken car. Drivers behind her honked loudly. Samantha crossed her arms and sighed. "This stupid engine again." She muttered. She called her driver, her assistant, even her mechanic, but no one answered. The heat grew stronger, and she started losing her patience at that moment. A tall man wearing an oily shirt and black cap walked by. His hands were dirty with grease, and his face showed years of hard work. He was pushing an old motorcycle slowly. His name was Marcus, a local mechanic from the nearby town. Samantha looked at him with a mix of annoyance and curiosity. "Hey, you," she called out. "Do you know anything about cars?" Marcus looked up, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and gave a calm smile. "I fix engines," he said softly. "What's the problem?" Samantha laughed, half out of stress, half out of disbelief. "This car costs more than your whole garage, I bet. If you can fix this engine," she paused and said jokingly, "I'll marry you." People around laughed. She didn't mean it, of course. It was just a proud woman making fun of a poor man. Marcus didn't say anything. He just looked at the car with quiet eyes, then at her. There was no anger, no pride, only calm confidence. He slowly put down his motorcycle and walked toward the car. "May I?" he asked. Samantha crossed her arms again and nodded. "Sure, let's see what you've got, Mr. Mechanic." Marcus opened the car's hood. Hot air and smoke rushed out. He carefully checked the wires, the oil, the plugs. His hands moved fast but steady, like someone who had done this 1,000 times. Samantha watched, her arms still crossed, but her eyes curious now. A few minutes passed. Cars slowed down to see what was happening. The crowd grew a little. Everyone waited to see if the poor mechanic could really fix a rich woman's luxury car. Marcus bent down and connected to small wires with his pocket tool. The sound of the engine trying to breathe again filled the air. Click, click, click. Vroom, the car started. Smooth, strong, perfect. The crowd clapped and cheered. Samantha's mouth fell open. Her expensive car, which her trained mechanics couldn't fix for hours, was now running perfectly repaired by a man she had mocked. Marcus closed the hood and stepped back, wiping his hands with a small cloth. "There you go, ma'am," he said politely. "Engine's fine now. Just a loose connection." Samantha stared at him. You actually did it?" He smiled a little. "You said you'd marry me if I fixed it." For a moment, everything went silent. The wind blew softly. Samantha didn't know what to say. People nearby laughed again, but this time, not at Marcus. They laughed with surprise. Samantha shook her head and smiled awkwardly. "I was joking," she said quickly. "Don't take it seriously." Marcus nodded, still calm. "Of course," he said, and started to walk away. But as he picked up his motorcycle, Samantha felt something strange, a mix of guilt and curiosity. Who was this man who fixed her car without fear or greed? She looked at him driving away, the sound of his old bike fading into the city noise. The camera could zoom in on her face, showing a hint of regret and confusion. The narrator's voice rises softly. She didn't know it then, but the man she had just laughed at would soon change her life forever. The next morning, the sound of hammers and engines filled the small corner street of Brooktown. Birds flew above the tin rooftops, and the smell of oil and metal hung in the air. Inside a small garage with a faded signboard that read Marcus Auto Care, a man in a gray shirt worked quietly under the hood of an old pickup truck. That man, of course, was Marcus, the same mechanic who had fixed the CEO's luxury car the day before. He hummed a soft tune while tightening a bolt. His face was calm, but his eyes were tired. He had been awake since sunrise. Marcus's life was simple. He lived alone in a tiny house behind his garage. His bed was just a mattress on the floor, and his alarm clock was the sound of the first bus that passed by every morning. Yet, he never complained. He was used to hard work. He had grown up in the same neighborhood, one of the poorest in the city. His father had been a mechanic too, a man who believed that a good heart was worth more than a rich pocket. When Marcus was only 12, his father passed away, leaving behind a small toolbox and a promise: fix what's broken, not just machines, but people too. Those words stayed with Marcus all his life, every day. People from the neighborhood brought their broken cars, old bikes, and sometimes even toys for him to fix. He never turned anyone away. If someone didn't have money, he still helped them. "Pay me when you can," he would say with a smile. Children loved watching him work. They would sit near his garage asking questions. He always answered with patience, even letting them hand him tools. The locals called him Brother Marcus. But behind that smile, Marcus carried pain. A few years ago, he had been part of a big project with a car company. He had designed a new kind of small engine, fuel-saving and powerful. But the company stole his idea and fired him, calling him just a mechanic. He had no money to fight them legally. That day broke his heart, but not his spirit. Since then, Marcus had stopped dreaming big. He told himself that peace was better than pride. Yet, at night, when the streets grew silent, he still opened an old notebook full of engine sketches. He believed that one day he would finish what he started. The day he met Samantha, the rich CEO, felt like fate knocking on his door again. He hadn't stopped thinking about her, not because of her beauty, but because of the look on her face when he fixed her car, a look that mixed shock, pride, and respect. It was rare for someone like her to look at someone like him that way. While Marcus worked, his best friend Toby, a chubby man with a kind heart, entered the garage carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Morning, genius," Toby said. "Heard you saved a rich lady yesterday? The whole town's talking about it." Marcus laughed softly. "People talk too much." "So, she really said she'd marry you if you fixed her car?" Toby teased. Marcus smiled but didn't answer. He just tightened another screw. "She was joking," he said quietly. "People like her don't mean words like that." Toby shook his head. "Still, you showed her that money can't buy skill." Marcus nodded slowly. "Maybe," he said, "but it's not about proving anything. It's just about doing what's right." He looked at the open road beyond the garage, the same road where he met Samantha. For a moment, he wondered if he would ever see her again. Meanwhile, somewhere across the city, Samantha sat in her office, still thinking about that same man. She couldn't forget his calm eyes and quiet strength. Something about him disturbed her, not in a bad way, but in a way that made her feel small. Back in Brooktown, Marcus finished his coffee, wiped his hands, and got back to work. The sun climbed higher, and the noise of engines filled the air again. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever, that soon. The woman who had laughed at him would walk into his little garage, not for her car, but for something far more important. The tall glass building of Reed Motors stood like a giant mirror in the middle of the city. Inside, people moved fast, typing, calling, planning. At the top floor, behind a big glass window, sat Samantha Reed, the woman everyone admired and feared at the same time. Her office was beautiful silver shelves, soft lighting, expensive art. Yet, behind all that beauty, there was cold silence. Samantha sat in her leather chair, staring at her laptop, but her mind was far away. She was thinking about the mechanic. Since that day on the road, she couldn't forget his face. The calm confidence, the quiet smile, the way he refused her money, it all stayed in her head like an echo she couldn't escape. She told herself it was silly. He's just a mechanic, she thought. Why am I even thinking about him? But deep inside, she knew why. Her life looked perfect on the outside. Fame, money, respect. Yet inside, she was lonely. Every morning started with meetings and ended with numbers. Every day, people around her smiled only when they wanted something. No one cared about her, only her success. Samantha had built her company after her father's death. He had been a kind man, full of dreams. He believed in people, not in profit. But after he died suddenly, the company almost collapsed. Investors tried to take control, partners betrayed her. She had to fight everyone to survive. That fight made her strong and cold. She stopped trusting people. She stopped smiling for real. The only emotion she allowed herself was control. And control was something Marcus broke without even trying, while she sat there, lost in thought. Her assistant Lara entered the office. "Ma'am, the meeting with the suppliers is ready," Lara said carefully. Samantha blinked and looked up. Yes, I'll be there." Lara hesitated. "Are you okay, ma'am? You look distracted." Samantha gave a small smile. "Just tired, that's all." After Lara left, Samantha looked at her reflection in the glass wall. She saw a strong woman in a perfect suit, but behind that image was someone tired. Someone who wanted to feel human again. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her business rival, Alan Grant. "Still driving that expensive car? Maybe it'll break again, just like your company will." Samantha sighed. Alan had always wanted to see her fail. She deleted the message, but it reminded her of how cruel the business world could be. Everyone smiled, but no one meant it. Later that evening, Samantha attended a corporate dinner. Flashing cameras, fake laughter, clinking glasses. Everything looked elegant, but it all felt empty. She moved through the crowd like a ghost. One reporter approached her with a grin. "Miss Reed, we heard an interesting story. You promised to marry a mechanic if he fixed your car. Is that true?" The room filled with laughter. Samantha forced a smile. "People love to exaggerate," she said coolly. "It was just a joke." But the moment she said those words, she felt a strange discomfort. She remembered the look in Marcus's eyes when he said, "You said you'd marry me if I fixed it." There had been no greed in his tone, just honesty. After the dinner, Samantha drove home alone. The city lights blurred outside her window. For once, she didn't care about her image, her business, or her rivals. Her mind kept replaying that afternoon, the sound of the car engine roaring back to life, and the calm voice that said, "Engine's fine now." When she reached home, she stood in front of her father's old photo. "Dad," she whispered, "did I become too proud? Did I forget how to be kind?" The silence in the big mansion answered her question. That night, Samantha couldn't sleep. She kept wondering about the man named Marcus, where he lived. What kind of person he really was. And somewhere deep inside her heart, for the first time in years, she felt something she had forgotten long ago. Curiosity mixed with respect. Little did she know. That small feeling would soon pull her out of her high towers and lead her straight into the world she once looked down on. It was a quiet morning in Brooktown. The sky was cloudy, and a soft wind blew across the empty streets. Marcus had just opened his small garage when he heard the sound of an expensive car engine nearby, smooth but struggling. Like a heart skipping beats, he looked up and blinked in surprise. A shiny black car stopped right in front of his shop. The same car. The same woman, Samantha Reed, stepped out slowly, wearing sunglasses and a white coat. For a moment, Marcus thought he was dreaming. He wiped his hands on his cloth and smiled politely. "Good morning, ma'am," he said. "Engine giving you trouble again?" Samantha took off her glasses and gave a small laugh. "It seems your magic touch didn't last long." Marcus chuckled. "Engines don't like being treated like trophies. They like care." His calm tone made her smile. She didn't know why, but standing in front of him again made her feel lighter. Almost safe. "I thought I'd get it checked here," she said, looking around the small garage. "Since the last time you performed a miracle." Marcus nodded and opened the hood. His hands moved with care, like an artist fixing a painting. Samantha watched him work, the way he focused, the way his eyes studied each detail. He wasn't in a hurry. But every move had purpose. There was something beautiful about his simplicity. While Marcus worked, Toby came out from the back holding a wrench and froze. His eyes widened. "Wait a second. Is that her?" He whispered loudly. Marcus shot him a look, but it was too late. Samantha laughed. "Yes, Toby, it's me, the woman with the broken car and the big mouth."
Oh.
Toby scratched his head nervously. "Ma'am, You look even richer in real life." Marcus rolled his eyes. "Toby, get me the 14mm spanner." As Toby ran off, Samantha leaned against the car and asked, "You're always this calm, aren't you?" Marcus didn't look up. "Engines don't like stress," he said simply. "Neither do people." His answer hit her deeper than she expected. She looked around his garage again. Small, messy, full of tools and metal parts. Yet it felt more real than her big office. After a few minutes, Marcus turned the ignition key. The engine roared to life, smooth as silk. He closed the hood gently. "There," he said. "It's fixed." Samantha blinked. "Again? Just like that?" Marcus smiled. "Just a small blockage in the fuel line. Nothing a little patience can't solve." She crossed her arms. "You make it sound so easy." He looked at her quietly. "Most things are easy, ma'am. People just complicate them." There was silence. For the first time, Samantha didn't feel like a CEO talking to a mechanic. She felt like a student listening to a teacher. She tried to hand him money again, but he shook his head. "I told you before, I fix engines because I love them, not for money." Samantha frowned slightly. "Then what do you want in return?" Marcus smiled softly. "Just respect." Those two words stayed in her mind like a whisper. Before leaving, Samantha looked at him and said, "You should work for me." "My company could use someone like you," Marcus laughed quietly. "People like me don't fit in glass buildings. Maybe that's exactly why we need you," she said. He didn't answer. He just watched her drive away, the engine humming perfectly this time as her car disappeared down the street. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years, hope. Later that evening, Samantha couldn't stop thinking about his words, just respect. She sat on her balcony, looking at the city lights, wondering how a man with so little could have so much peace. And somewhere deep inside her heart, she made a small decision she would see him again. Not because she needed her car fixed, but because she needed to understand the kind of strength that came without power or money. She didn't know it yet, but that decision would change both their lives forever. The next few days moved slowly, but Samantha's thoughts never stopped racing. Meetings, calls, and reports surrounded her, yet her mind kept drifting back to the little garage in Brooktown. She tried to push it away, but every time she looked at her car, she remembered Marcus's calm eyes and that simple sentence, "Just respect." By the end of the week, she gave up fighting the thought. She told her assistant Laura, "I need someone to check our company trucks. They've been breaking down too often." "Should I call the company mechanics?" Samantha smiled faintly. "No, I'll take care of it myself." That afternoon, her black car drove once again through the narrow streets of Brooktown. The same children were playing outside. They waved and whispered when they saw her car stop in front of Marcus's garage. Marcus was under a Jeep, fixing a tire when her heels clicked on the concrete floor. He rolled out from under the vehicle and looked up, half surprised, half amused. "You again?" he asked with a smile. Samantha folded her arms. "Don't act so shocked. I told you I'd need your skills again." Marcus laughed softly. "I thought CEOs send assistants to do their errands." "Sometimes," she said, "CEOs need fresh air." Wiped his hands and stood up. "What can I do for you, ma'am?" Samantha explained the problem with her company's delivery vehicles. Engines failing, parts wearing out too soon. Marcus listened carefully, asking simple but smart questions. Then he said something that caught her off guard. "It's not the trucks," he said. "It's the people maintaining them. They're fixing things the wrong way." She raised an eyebrow. "You can tell that without seeing them." Marcus nodded. "Machines talk to those who listen," Samantha smiled. "Then maybe you should come listen to mine." That same evening, Marcus found himself standing in the huge parking area of Reed Motors. Expensive trucks and cars lined up neatly. He felt out of place. His shirt was clean, but old. His boots covered in dust. Still, he walked with quiet confidence. Employees stared as he passed. Some whispered, others laughed. One man muttered, "Who let the mechanic in?" Samantha noticed. "He's my guest," she said firmly. The room fell silent. Marcus examined the vehicles one by one, explaining things the company's own engineers had missed. His hands moved like a teacher, showing students how to respect a craft. Samantha watched in silence, amazed by his skill. After hours of work, he showed her a small part in the engine. "This," he said, "is what's been causing all the problems. Replace it, and your trucks will run fine." Her engineers nodded in surprise. "He's right, ma'am. We overlooked that." Samantha looked at Marcus with real admiration this time. "You just saved us a fortune." He smiled softly. "Sometimes, small things make big changes." When he started to leave, she stopped him. "Wait. Have dinner with me." Marcus hesitated. "I don't belong in your world." Samantha shook her head. "Tonight, we meet in the middle." They sat in a quiet diner nearby, far from the city lights. The place was simple. Checkered tables, soft music, and the smell of coffee. For the first time, Samantha didn't care about her image. She laughed freely, telling stories about her father and her business struggles. Marcus listened patiently, sometimes smiling, sometimes giving short but wise replies. She asked him, "Do you ever get tired of fixing things?" He looked into his cup and said, "No. I just wish I could fix people the same way." That line stayed in her heart. As they left, paparazzi waiting outside took pictures. The next morning, headlines appeared. CEO seen dining with local mechanic. What's the story? Her business partners were furious. "You're risking your reputation," they said. But Samantha didn't care. For once, she felt alive. When Marcus came to her office the next day, she looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Let them talk. I trust you." He smiled gently. "That's all I ever wanted." Neither of them knew that this trust, born between two completely different worlds, was about to be tested in ways neither could imagine. Rain poured heavily that night, painting the city in silver light. The streets glistened under the flickering lamps, and thunder rolled across the dark sky. Inside her glass office, Samantha Reed stood by the window, staring at the rain. Her reflection looked tired, but her eyes were calm. A month had passed since the media storm began. Photos of her and Marcus had spread everywhere, on news sites, gossip pages, and social media. Some called it a love story, others called it madness. Her board of directors was divided. "You're damaging the company's image," one of them shouted during a meeting. But Samantha simply said, "Image without integrity means nothing." Marcus had stopped visiting her office after that meeting. He didn't want to be the reason she lost everything she worked for. Still, every evening, he waited near the same old road where they first met. Hoping she'd come by again, days turned into weeks. And the distance between their worlds grew wide once more. One evening, Samantha's car engine refused to start again. She laughed softly, half in frustration, half in memory. "Looks like fate isn't done with me yet," she whispered. She took her umbrella and drove to Brooktown in a taxi. The rain was heavy, splashing mud across the road. When she reached Marcus's garage, the lights were off. She called his name. No answer. Then she saw him outside, sitting on a wooden stool, fixing an old radio under a small lamp. He looked up, surprised but smiling. "You came." "I needed help again," she said, stepping closer. "Seems your lucky touch is the only thing that keeps my car alive." Marcus chuckled softly. "Or maybe your car just wants you to remember where you came from." They both laughed quietly. For a while, neither spoke. The rain's rhythm filled the silence. Finally, Samantha said, "Why did you stop coming to see me?" Marcus put down his tools and sighed. "Because I didn't want to be the reason people disrespected you. You worked hard for everything. You don't deserve to lose it because of me." Samantha's eyes softened. "Marcus, you once told me all you wanted was respect. But respect isn't what others give. It's what we earn by being true." He looked at her, confused. "I lost my peace trying to impress people," she continued. "But with you, I learned what honesty feels like." The rain slowed down to a drizzle. Samantha stepped closer and said quietly, "Do you remember what I told you the first day we met?" Marcus smiled faintly. "You said you'd marry me if I fixed your engine." She took a deep breath. "And you did twice. Maybe it's time I kept my word." For a moment, Marcus thought she was joking again. But her eyes told him she wasn't. They stood there in the quiet rain, two souls from different worlds, finally standing on the same ground. A week later, the city buzzed with unexpected news. The Iron Lady marries a mechanic. Others called it the most beautiful love story of the year. The ceremony wasn't grand. It took place in Marcus's little garage, decorated with flowers and fairy lights. Children from the neighborhood brought homemade gifts. Toby acted as the best man, grinning ear to ear. Samantha wore a simple white dress. It's nothing fancy, but she had never looked happier. Marcus wore his cleanest shirt and a nervous smile. When the time came for the vows, Samantha said softly, "You fixed my car when no one could. But more than that, you fixed my heart when I didn't even know it was broken," Marcus replied. "And you taught me that love isn't about status or pride. It's about two people willing to understand each other." The crowd clapped, some crying, some laughing, as the ceremony ended. Marcus started the same old radio he had been fixing earlier. A soft song played, warm, simple, full of hope. Samantha leaned against him and whispered, "I guess engines aren't the only things you can fix." He smiled. "As long as they have a heartbeat." The camera could pan out slowly, the small garage glowing with light, laughter echoing through the street, and rain softly falling outside like a blessing. A narrator's voice fades in. Sometimes love begins with a challenge, grows through respect, and ends with a promise kept. Because in the end, fixing an engine might be easy, but fixing a heart takes something truly powerful: kindness,